Three, two, one. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Someli. This is the sixth podcast now, and I have one of my first friend in college. This is Nathan. Introduce yourself, Nathan.
Hello, I am Nathan.
He's a movie director. He's a musician. He does so much. He's also a statistician. He's up and coming chairman for our ASUCD, politicking government for our school.
Possibly.
Let's get right into it. So last week with Patrick, we talked a lot about our different type of writing styles, and Nathan, as a movie director, what type of stories speak most to you?
Yeah. I found that I actually really like coming of age stories. Like when people think about stories, I'm not sure what people think about when I think about stories. I think about the story structure pretty much, with like the three act structure, right?
Yeah.
So you have Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. Usually Act 1 is the introduction, Act 2 is like the middling, stuff, and then climax, and then Act 3 is the resolution or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that I really enjoy the structure of life, death, and rebirth, like the phoenix. And I found that I think pretty much every single story fits that. Like,
it's the hero's journey.
Yeah, hero's journey, exactly. Like the Godfather. I always bring it up because you would never think it, but the Godfather is just a coming of age story about, the guy. It's like the Lion. I always say this, but the Godfather is pretty much exactly the Lion King, except you have mafia stuff in it. It's just you just have a guy who has to take the place of his father, and that's exactly the Lion King, and that's pretty much like all coming of age stories, or all stories almost. And you have the life and the death and the rebirth. Yeah, same with like the Jesus story. Also, life, death, rebirth.
I was about to say, it sounds like since you've listened to Peterson as well, whenever he talks about the archetypes regarding the hero's journey, descent into the underworld, and in some places reclaiming the good parts of what your father taught you in the past, and then bringing it back to the present.
That's exactly. And when I heard that the first time, I was really struck by that, because it was like, wow, that's like every single story you can kind of do that almost. And I've actually here's something interesting. So when I was in middle school, I wrote like some Minecraft skits, and it was like 3 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And then I found it was like a squid, like my character was a squid, so then he would do some squid adventures. But I found that the 3 episodes followed the 3 act structure exactly. I was like, damn, in middle school, my Minecraft skit followed the 3 act structure. I'm like, dang, it must be really fundamental.
No, it's definitely a part of all these old mythologies as well. On the second podcast with our roommate Hide, I got into the story of Osiris and Horus. If you can represent, the hero's journey as like the descent into the underworld, Horus does that literally to go reclaim the best parts of his father. He reclaimed his father, and in the story, he loses an eye when he battles Seth, which is essentially the Egyptian version of Satan. He loses an eye. When he recovers the eye, instead of taking it in himself, he gives it to his father, because the father represents is your past, the lessons from your culture, and giving it sight, allowing it to adapt to the times of the future, on top of being the leader that can be aware and brave enough to challenge the underworld and survive. Those are the things that make you best suited to lead the people. So in the mythologies, what those stories are meant to represent is who's the person that's supposed to be in charge.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually can see that, and I think you got into How to Train Your Dragon
Oh yeah.
way back in freshman year. And those stories represent that very well with Hiccup, both in him learning new things about the world by basically training the first person to train the dragons in their culture, but then also learning to take the responsibilities of his own father and the lessons of the past that were important.
Yeah. And I found that freshman year for me was like I was listening to Jordan Peterson reading his book, and then suddenly I see How to Train Your Dragon. It's like, wow, this is like exactly the archetypes and the story structure and everything. Is like, can it get any better than this? And then I started looking. If that's what really got me into movies and the story structure and stuff.
And you started writing. I think you wrote one that was involving dragons and a phoenix, which is basically your version of How to Train Your Dragon, or your story in their world.
Yeah, I pretty much just like stole it. Not stole it. I took the Lion King story and kind of transitioned it almost to my own universe.
Okay, so so if you have a new story you have, it's called University at War. How would you say that these story structures apply to that one? So let's start with like a premise of what it is, and then how the story structure in it evolves.
Yeah. So when I wrote it, so I've written the How to Train Your Dragon ripoff, and then I wrote the University at War, which are they're like 90 pages of script, so they're like full length movies. And both of them, I think, would be considered coming of age stories at their most fundamental, but pretty much they're about a guy who is thrust into something he doesn't necessarily want to be a part of, but then he has to, take responsibility and kind of fulfill the role that he's supposed to play. And then, so in University of War, is the main character, and he finds himself in this situation where he doesn't want to be in this kind of chaotic world, but through finding himself and recognizing his responsibility, he kind of takes hold of like what he's supposed to, I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, because I think it's in the story kind of it's like mafia infecting college campuses, and the role he doesn't want to take on.
That's just the backdrop.
Yeah, it's the backdrop, and it's basically he should put in more situations where he's looked to as a leader, and as the story goes on, he accepts that role more and more until the very end he fully embraces it.
Yeah. I think that's something you need to work on, though, because right now in the script, he's very indifferent and he doesn't really care about things. But I think a good story has like a protagonist that has more agency. I think the word is, or like more is able. He's the one who affects the story. I think people say that's the best protagonist. So
there are three major most common character arcs that you see. The one which I kind of like is called the Flack character arc, which is your character, he holds true to his values across the whole thing, and I would say it doesn't necessarily, those values aren't really affected. It's not him being that person, interacting with everyone else around him moves the story forward, and he affects everyone else, and people will change being around this person.
Yeah, actually, that's funny because I've watched watched an interview with someone, and someone said the exact same thing with Paddington. Do you know the movie Paddington?
Oh, I talked about that recently. Yeah.
It's
the bear, right?
The bear. Yeah. I've actually really want to watch that movie because they were talking about the character arcs and stuff, and how Paddington's kind of an interesting case where the Paddington doesn't have any arc, but he's the one affecting everyone else, and everyone else has an arc, and it's I've never actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I want to watch Paddington. There's like a second one too.
We were talking about this on the last podcast. Paddington 2 is the one that does it kind of more strongly because they literally throw the bear in jail And then him being in jail with all these kind of criminals and convicts eventually makes it into a really great place because they're all just around him, and he
Yeah.
influences them for the better. And another story you could say is like that is Dragon Ball, because Goku's Goku the whole time. He's very similar at the very end to how he is at the very beginning as a kid. Of course, wiser, but his values are the same. And it's him being that person interacting with all these characters across. I think most of the villains that he's encountered eventually sway over and change because of it, and a lot of them become his allies in the future.
Yeah.
And the most, I was talking about this one with Patrick last time. Vegeta is the most pronounced because I would say of all the people he's influenced, Vegeta's the most evil and the most uncomfortable with settling into this whole new ideology, or less of an ideology, more like outlook of life and the things to appreciate, and it becomes the most satisfying because it gets us he's the most development of any other character when it comes to that respect. And you can see it across when he's introduced in the beginning of Dragon Ball Z, and even now in Dragon Ball Super. Where like one example is in the beginning of Dragon Ball Z, he's responsible for murdering a whole village of this specific race. And then when that race is reintroduced in one arc of the newest volumes, he comes to atone for those sins and regrets actually having been that person in the past. Just kind of a complete 180 of who he was, being someone who only fought for himself, but being around Goku at his naivete, eventually becoming one who cares and fights for others.
Yeah.
And
is Goku the main character?
Goku's the main character.
I see. Yeah.
The other arc that I find really fun to work with is the Fall, where you have a character to start somewhere and then you kind of set them on a path which challenges their values. And I like it when the Fall's more dramatic, where it feels like they're holding on, but there's just a lot of strain and building on their worldview until it eventually snaps, and then everything collapses upon itself, and they descend into that further and further hell. Now, it's fun to think about for me.
Yeah, it's pretty fun to watch too.
Like Joker. Joker's a good example.
Yeah, Joker, exactly. It's like something you don't get very often, it seems.
No, because people like feel-good stories.
Yeah.
People like feel-good where the person starts low. People love that underdog who comes up against the toughest people out there and eventually wins out. Which is nice. Everyone likes that because everyone feels like they can identify with it. But I guess in regards to the Fall, it's a lot. The reason why it's more interesting to me is it's something that's capable within all of us, but no one really likes to think about it. That people can fall that low, and also the fact that there is no end to the low. There's always somewhere deeper you can fall to.
Yeah.
And I'm always been curious about what happens when you push people to their limits, and will they rise above it, or will they collapse and cave in? That's the main idea of the comic that I've been working on for so long. Because it takes one person who's incredibly stubborn and tough, and again putting in those scenarios, straining him until at the very end, when he finally breaks, then this kind of monster that's unleashed because of it. Like, I think it's really dramatic when you have someone who strives to be incredibly virtuous, as in, good, take care of other people, stand for others, the kind of typical virtuous kind of thing, and firmly believes in that for so long and has fought for that for so long, and eventually, when they turn, all that becomes kind of meaningless, and there's no limits to what they will do after.
That reminds me of something like a Bible quote that Jordan Peterson talked about one time, and it comes into my head a lot. I think it's like, "Blessed are those who are meek in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of God," or something like that. And if you, or at least what Jordan Peterson says, is that the meek isn't, you tend to think of weak when you think of meek, but it's not actually weak. It actually means, a better translation would be something like, blessed are those who are capable of uh, holding a large shield or something, and don't use it, or holding a large sword and don't use it, for theirs is the kingdom of God, or something like
No, yeah,
the best
actually,
yeah.
that goes into something else I have in my comic about I guess I take it, I call it as the shadow, as in, you know, the part of you that is malicious, and like not just malicious, like all the negative aspects they have of you that everyone knows they have, is like the dark thoughts that slip in all the time. Um, just for example, like let's say you're driving and there's so much traffic, just a little thought slips in your head. You don't give it much weight, but it's just like, you know, it'd just be so easy to cause so much chaos. Just turn your wheel slightly.
Yeah.
Those kinds of thoughts.
Yeah.
And
exactly. Oh, sorry.
No, go on.
Yeah, that's exactly what. Sorry, what do I? Yeah. So yeah, I feel like I've had those thoughts before, and I feel like everyone has those thoughts, right?
Everyone has them to varying extents, and but the thing is that I feel is you can't completely ignore it, and what I mean by that is there's, how would I say, there's a strength that you can gain as a person if you're able to tap into the proper parts of it without, and use it when it's necessary. Like if you find an encounter where you need to fight back, or you need some kind of extra resolve, or like to deal with some kind of malicious force, there's a lot of, it's like you grow out your teeth, or you gain your claws, or whatever. You gain the ability to fight back once you understand those parts within you and how to utilize them properly.
Yeah, and it goes, and I guess the Bible quote would kind of imply that the best person that you can be is someone who recognizes that you're capable of great harm and bad things and stuff, but that you don't act on it, and that you can kind of control it.
Yeah, it's virtuous. Like you have that power and know when to use it. Like when you learn martial arts, one of the biggest things they push on you to learn is you're not using this so you can pick fights. It's not the reason people learn it. People learn it so that they are able and strong enough to use it properly when the situation calls for it. It's like knowing when to exercise restraint, but when you need to act swiftly and decisively. And it's more so when you're fighting other people in the ring or on the mat. It's not like out of malice or anger or anything. You see it more as testing yourself against someone else, pushing the limit of what you can do even further beyond.
That's interesting. So you'd view the martial arts fight as a, not really a, how would you view
it's like a contest rather than war. Like that a lot of things are done that way in the spirit of competition, and it's good that they're that way, because it's like you're viewing the other person when you enter the ring with them. You're viewing them as an equal on this mat. You're just testing each other to see the limits of each other's skill and talent. Versus where stories I've heard about, I would say violence on the streets, or also accounts of war, it's literally just for survival, as in you are willing to kill and do all those things just because, well, for war stuff, it's been you're fighting for something that you believe in, but for the streets, it's more so just you kind of want to make it to the next day.
Yeah,
There's
and
less.
both you would say are kind of like a contest
Mm-hmm.
rather than actual war. Which is
Mm-hmm.
that? Yeah, it's just I never thought about that because like watching, I don't know, watching like a MMA fight or something from an outsider, it seems like um, both are out to get each other, right? But yeah, but at the end they're both like, man, that was a good fight or something.
Yeah, they'll stand in arms.
Yeah,
Unless they have beef. But
yeah.
that's completely different.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I always have to have a lot of respect for people who have that kind of power, but don't don't use it wildly. And it's really interesting the where I see it kind of like in dogs the same way as kind of seen it in people. There's always the really tiny ones that like to fight and assert themselves through those ways. The ones that don't really have that strength, and ones that do, the ones that like the people that learn how to take care of themselves in that way, be it from the military or police force or something like that, they always are more. I can't say always, but they tend to be more responsible with that kind of power, more law-abiding, less aggressive. But when something needs to happen, they act quickly and firmly.
Yeah.
One example, actually, I have one of my friends when we went to watch a movie recently. He's kind of like a really big guy. Like he's at least a foot taller than I am, and he's huge. Um, we were sitting watching a movie, and this other guy was being um, really snarky and loud in the movie, and really disrespectful. And once I was about to stand up and say something when my friend, he just said, "You have 2 seconds before I punch you in the face," and really loudly. He's a deep voice, so it carried. And the guy shut up. So even though he was being very kind of, he was barking up pretty loudly, when a push comes to shove, he didn't really have something to back it up with. So it's always I find it really something to admire when you have people around you like that who have that strength and know when to use it.
Yeah. I find that I probably would not ever do something like that because just because of disrupting the social order or something, I would never do that.
Oh, I don't care about the
It's
social
very
order.
just
I've done that before. Stand up for the other
yeah.
people around me. There's actually one time I was with a friend named Pingdi, and we were heading back home on the bus, and this guy was talking to us really weirdly, and he was making awkward suggestions to us, and instinctively, just to I guess make sure Pingdi was okay and protected, I just stood in between, and then like he put his hand on me, and I stood firm, and I got him to back off,
Hmm.
and stuff like that before. I think there's one story I have where I've definitely mentioned this to you before, but I was at a group party with a bunch of friends, and the one of the guys pushed down one of the girls in the group, and I looked at her and asked her, "Do you give me the word? Like, give me the okay to do something?" Because I just wanted, it was within her house. I didn't want to make a scene without consent. And she nodded, and I don't think she knew what she nodded to because I flipped the guy and slammed him into the ground.
Yeah.
And then it ended it because he didn't really have anything to back up with. I thought about doing more, but the point was made. There was no need to make a scene even bigger. And it worked out.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's also, I don't think understanding that your shadow and being able to hone it properly is not. I feel like it's something everyone can try to do, but I don't think it's something everyone can do well. I think some people just aren't fighters in that kind of way.
Yeah.
That'd be the
Oh, yeah,
actual
I would say
weak.
I'm definitely not that person. I would definitely not make any kind of scene. Um,
See,
like
Nathan,
even
that's why your guns exist. You just show off. You don't have to make a big scene.
yeah, but guns kind of make it easier to kind of make yourself capable of evil things. Um,
No, yeah, and that's why it's the people who get, I would say, learn, probably get proper training and have the concealed carry and do carry it around them. they understand the weight of the power there, and statistics show they're some of the most law-abiding citizens that we have. Like, those kinds of things are really powerful and really dangerous. So if you know how to use it and use it properly, it's like the Spider-Man thing. With great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah.
And I guess
I'm just wondering.
Another thing to that would be that if you have that power and something calls on you to act on it, I feel it's important that you should act on it.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting because it's always easy to imagine myself, or anyone probably can imagine themselves in a situation where they're like the hero, and then they kind of save the day in some kind of chaotic situation or something. And I wonder if it's so easy to like to imagine yourself in it. I wonder how many people actually are able to do it.
Probably a lot less, but more than you would think.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's why I always put more emphasis on the actions people undertake than their words. Because one thing I've always encountered is ego, and ego is just hot air. People talk themselves up all the time. They have this image of themselves in their head, and the way they live their lives or the people around them don't really call them out on it. So once they encounter someone who actually has substance behind what they say about them, and they come into conflict, the person with the ego always loses out because there's nothing real there. And whenever those moments happen, it tends to shatter, I guess, that sense of confidence in self, because it was broken, and it was exposed. It's not just that this is one person. No, everyone else around them saw it. And I think those lessons are important for people to learn, because there's no reason to have an ego. No one cares about you that much. And it's always been in my view that no one should be putting it upon themselves to make everyone else feel like they're underling. If you're striving to belittle everyone else around you, you're kind of just a jerk. You're kind of scum.
Yeah. I wonder if the definition of ego is the same. The Carl Jung, I think.
Oh, no, that's a different ego.
That's a different ego. Okay.
That is the Freudian ego, and I'm trying to remember what exactly.
Oh, no, something even different than that. There's I know Freud is like the id, the ego, and the superego or something. But for Carl Jung, it's the persona, the shadow, and the ego. Can't remember if they're the same.
I have to listen to that Peterson lecture again. But I do remember talking about that.
Because, okay, one of the reasons I'm a big fan of BTS, I'm sorry to bring up BTS on here.
Oh, no.
But BTS, their current album is called they release an album in trilogies, which is exactly the 3-act structure. And I'm like, just the fact that they release albums in trilogies following a 3-act structure just makes me, holy shit, like, dang. But yeah, they're currently on the second installment of the trilogy, so it'd be the death part. And yeah, it's called Map of the Soul, which is the same title as a Carl Jung book, I think. And yeah, they have a song called they have 3 songs. That was like the intro, the interlude, and the outro, which is persona, shadow, and then ego. And yeah, it seems like ego would be something. It's like something that everyone has, and it's just like, I think everyone has those 3. I mean, if you're going to assume that everyone follows a Jungian mind, if everyone's mind follows the Jungian archetypes, then everyone would have those 3 things. And I guess it's just the right balance of those 3 things that make the best person.
I do enjoy his ideas of the archetypes and how we have different competing sub-personalities constantly interacting with each other that form out who we are on the outset. And the idea of that knowledge that we have stored deep within ourselves, so we can't really describe well. Like, we have the knowledge that we know and can put into words, and then we also have the knowledge that you know, but it's like a feeling. You can't really describe it very well, and you don't know where it comes from. Like, oh.
And it's like separate from you, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like not exactly you, but you kind of like there's a part of you that's not exactly you, but it's still you.
Mm-hmm. And that's what those like deeper sub personalities or sub archetypes or whatever. I think that's the information that those hold, and sometimes it comes up through the surface. And I like the interpretation of dreams as your whatever you have on the outside, like the knowledge you can articulate, interacting with that deeper truth or deeper knowledge within you, and bringing out the reality of situations that are facing you, because your dreams tend to deal with problems that are facing real life. And I think that's why, I would think evolutionary wise, is why the dreams kind of evolve, so you can deal with these scenarios better. It's not just a random thing that happens. There's some evolutionary benefit to us having dreams and all that.
It's interesting. I had a dream today, or like last night, that maybe I'll share. I don't remember these things. Like, there's multiple aspects of it, like all dreams, but then I remember there was like a subplot where I went to China, and then I like flew to China. We kind of crashed or something on the runway, but then I went to like some temple and I beheaded some Chinese priest or something. And then like the police were coming after me. It was very weird. It was very interesting, but like it's kind of exactly in line what I was thinking, like what I think about just like normally, how like I'm not a fan of the Chinese government and everything. And yeah, it's very interesting seeing that kind of come up in my dream.
See, I guess my dreams, I don't dream often anymore. I used to, but my dreams tend to revolve around the same thing. It's not interesting. It's like having the same dream every time, and I don't know. I feel like I'd have to try hard to interpret it, see what's actually kind of there. Because I would guess that if I'm having the same kind of thoughts consistently, that means there's something there that my mind really hasn't settled, and it just keeps going back to over and over again. Which sounds like me. I do overthink everything. Which, I don't know. I think there's good and bad. Like, at least the way my mind works. Since it doesn't ever turn off. It's always doing something. I go through every different scenario I can think of for a specific thing that I'm doing. And I go through, like, all the different possibilities of what if this specific thing happens, how it turn out if, like, and all the different reactions to that one event. And it kind of sorts through all the scenarios and most likely to least likely. And I don't know. I do that all the time. And I do it for everything. And it does help. My guesses are pretty accurate most of the time. If I listen to my gut. If I look, like, the way I've always looked at the thoughts that come around in my head, there are three kind of sources. One would be my mind, the active thoughts that I have, like me going about trying to think about things rationally, try to remove emotion from it. The second, which would be my heart, or whatever the hell the emotional thoughts are, like that. I always describe it as my heart, but I guess that's because we're all those thoughts centered around feeling kind of come from. And the thoughts, I guess the values that are held by my heart and my mind are separate. Like, they're similar, but they emphasize different things. Like, my mind is a lot more harsh and pragmatic than my heart is. And my heart's a lot more open and willing to listen to other people out and that kind of thing, forgive. But then the thing that supersedes both, as in, I have to listen to my gut, or else I get things wrong a lot more often. It's just that I don't know how to describe it. It's a feeling that I get. And I call it my gut because that's kind of the region where I feel these thoughts come from. I don't know I wouldn't know how to describe that well, but it's it's just a feeling of what is. It just tells me something that feels true, and most of the time it's true. I can't think of a scenario right off the top of my head where it's been wrong. And my most accurate guesses always come from that gut feeling. Like it could be just a whim of what this of my read on this person, and then it tends to be the most accurate between all three. And even then, extending down to like just say trivia or taking a test or whatever, my gut tends to be whatever my gut says tends to be the correct answer.
Yeah, I used to kind of do that too, but it was the opposite for me, where I would come up with all these situations, and then every single time I would be wrong, and I'd start to think that I jinx it by thinking of a situation, um, and I'm not sure I have the same kind of mind, heart, and gut thing, but yeah, I've actually tried not to uh, think of situations anymore, just so I don't overthink. And because every time I overthink about situations, it never happens the way I think it is. Or maybe I'm just not exploring all the possibilities or something. But
I don't know. It's just really interesting. So like actually we can sum it up really quickly. Like my mind is what comes up with all the scenarios. My heart tells me what scenario I want, and my gut tells me what scenario is true. That's what it tends to be. And it's let's see. Let me think of a good story that's kind of incredibly um telling for that. Oh, okay. So there's this one time where I was at my job. I was just opening the door and watching for this meeting where all the executives in the company were kind of going through. And I was just greeting everyone, paying attention to like I guess whether or not they made eye contact, their handshake, their like posture, and all this kind of stuff. And I was making reads on all the people there, and for a good amount of them, they weren't really they weren't really anything too off. There's just nothing because you can't get too much information from that. Maybe you can get like your base kind of demeanor. Except there was just one lady executive who just to feel from her and kind of like just how she was, my gut was screaming, "This person's a narcissist." She's like didn't look me in the eye. She barely made contact. Just and the way she kind of shrugged me off, it was a kind of feeling where no, this person doesn't really care about my existence in any way. Like she sees herself as above. And I do know some of the executives rather well, so I talked with them about that and like the few reads I was getting off the other people as well, and they confirmed my thoughts. That person apparently is a bitch.
did that gut feeling influence like your actions in any way?
The gut feeling was that thought process like this is what this person is. This is like a character trait of this person that's incredibly visible at least or apparent. And it's like I guess it's like my mind feeds information in, comes up with the possibilities, and my gut's like, okay, this is the one that's true. This is what works out. And I don't know, it's always been the case ever since I was young. So it's been a good tool. It's definitely helped me do well in a lot of tests and things before. And I very appreciate it for that.
Yeah. For me, I'm not sure like it just goes straight to the gut. I don't really have any mind that mind part where it comes up with different scenarios. I just boom. There's a feeling there. Actually, yeah, it's that kind of this is totally unrelated, or actually it's kind of related. Someone told me when you're taking the SAT that when you come up with an answer, just never change your answer afterwards, because usually the first answer you come up with is right.
That is actually one that I found to be true most of the time. If you're unsure, the first thing your mind went to is likely the right thing. And I burned myself too many times by listening to my mind and being like, no, it's probably this one. And then you go back to it and it was wrong.
Yeah. I'm not sure how much it's worked for me, but I've been trying to. Every time I do take a test and that comes up, that always pops into my head, like, probably shouldn't change my answer or something. I don't know if it worked or not because I haven't really tried too hard to kind of check, but yeah.
I guess this makes me think of the trait, intuitiveness. So I guess one thing that applies to me is as long as I get the base components of an idea, I can tend to figure out deeper understandings using those ideas. For example, let's say I'm doing a physics test and I didn't learn all the equations are necessary, but I can have the basics to start with. I can figure out the process to which to solve the problem by just extrapolating from what I know in the beginning, and then get out the later answers. And I tend to do that with a lot of different ideas and concepts. I can jump further ahead quicker than most. Just why it helps me because my studying time is a lot less than everyone else to get the same result, and I do appreciate it a whole bunch. And how do you say that kind of idea of intuitiveness applies to you?
I would say that it doesn't like me at all.
Really?
But what I've really found helpful in let's see. Yeah, like definitely on tests, I'm not able to, if I don't know it, I just don't know it. I just can't do it. Maybe I can try to like throw some crap at the paper, but it usually doesn't work. But what I do find helpful, this is kind of related, but what I was thinking about when you were talking about that was how when I do assignments, I found that it's really helpful for me to write everything down. Just write all of my thoughts and just like on paper, just kind of not cram, but like kind of throw up every single thing I'm thinking about on the paper, and it helps me process through it.
That helps a lot of people. Like the different ways I've heard is writing things down, because that way you kind of, like we were talking about earlier, the knowledge you don't know versus you do, it helps you kind of confirm the thoughts that you have and internalize them. And the other one is speaking about it. Those big two.
Yeah. And yeah, what I find most useful is starting from the very beginning. Like, okay, I have a problem, and the problem is blah 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 blah. Here's the problem. What do I need to do? Blah blah blah, and just write everything down and just don't, because like I feel like when I write stuff down like in a notebook or something, I'm always worrying about wasting paper for some reason. Like I always don't want to write too much because then I'm just gonna waste the paper. So then I need to usually I have to get myself out of the mentality of wasting paper. I don't know what it is, but yeah. And it kind of goes back to something that I think about a lot, Elon Musk's reasoning process. I forget what it's called, but it's like reasoning a problem, fundamentals reasoning or something like that. Reasoning directly from the source of the problem. So like, why, for example, why aren't we going to space or something? Oh, you go all the way back into the source, like to the lowest level you can possibly go. And it's like, oh, because it costs too much money, blah, 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 blah. Go all the way down. Why does it cost so much money? Then you can kind of, once you get to the deepest level, then you can start problem solving from there. I think that's very useful.
No, yeah, definitely. I guess, let's see. My thoughts in regards to like the problem solving type stuff. I do try to break things down into their base elements, like make it as easy as possible. Like one thing that helps me internalize whatever I learn is kind of explaining it to other people. Like, I guess, for example, yesterday, I was talking to my grandmother about geology, because she saw the movie San Andreas, and she's like, oh my god, the Earth is going to swallow us up. Oh no. So I had to make it very simple, be like, no, that's not how it happens, and this is why. And it's like old Earth is just like puzzle pieces, that kind of thing. That's what it's like, pieces that fit together and they move around each other. And I had, like, I used my hands as an example, and I showed her a map as an example. And just, earthquakes happen for three reasons. One, they slide past each other, and I can, you can show that visual of, two, like, let's say, two books sliding on their backs against each other. The other one is they come against each other, like crashing on it, and one sinks down and one sinks up, or one goes up, or they both kind of crash and rise up together, depending, and that forms mountains and volcanoes. And the last one is them spreading apart. And just whenever I try to explain things to people, be it geology or politics or whatever, whenever I go through the first explanation, I try to remove as much excess information as possible, bring it back to its base kind of elements, the main ideas, and explain it through that way. And then if they have questions, we can go into the further and more nuanced details of what's going on. But most of the time, I've always found that most effective to, remove any extra and start with the core ideas.
Yeah, I do a similar thing with doing homework problems. Like I kind of explain it to myself, just through the paper. I think I feel like some of these things that are so like they're so easy that I never figured out, but I'm pretty sure like everyone else does it. But I never really figured it out until recently, like just writing everything down to solve problems. Yeah. Like notebooks or journals too. Like I think I never really thought about this, but I think a lot of people actually have journals and they write their own diary and stuff. I never actually considered the fact that a lot of people do that. I thought I was special by doing it, but no, I think a lot of people do it.
A lot of people do it. I don't know. Journals are weird to me, and also until recently, speaking to others about stuff is also new to me. Because at least for me, whenever there's an issue or a problem, my mind is always kind of the thing that I go to. Because at least growing up, I never really felt like. Writing down always felt weird, and I didn't always have a go-to person, so I always had to rely on me for most of the things that I went through. So me developing this kind of the way I think partly was to help that. Is I could think about the problems that you're facing, right? These are all the effects of what's happening. Okay, so let's figure out all possible things that are why these things are happening. And then I go through each one, and then find ones which kind of are more accurate, and then whittle down till I keep figuring out, go deeper and deeper till I find whatever is the core problem. And then from there, I go on and think, okay, well, what can I do about it? What's actually going to solve it? And I go through all the different things that way. And whenever I deal with people, sometimes I feel like I can be too mean. But it's not mean of like being unfair or anything like that. It's mean because I tend to say things that ring true, and people don't like to hear the truth. The truth hurts. So like, for example, let's say I have a friend that's complaining she didn't get into whatever program and all that. And then we go, okay, so why didn't get into the program? And we go through her application and what she did. And I was like, your application sucked. You didn't do anything. You didn't put in the actual work. You can't complain about the program because you didn't put the work in so you can look good or strong for that program. It's like if you're complaining you didn't get the A, but you put in a C's worth of effort. And I will tell someone, you put in a C's worth of effort.
Yeah.
And
I think that's true for me too. That I realize, wait, why did I do so bad in this class? Oh wait, it's because I didn't do anything in the class, and it's a lesson learned, I guess, for me.
Yeah, I've always been a proponent of the individual, where the things that happen in life, I believe most of the time, it's not due to externalities. I think it's because you were missing something. You didn't do something that could have taken you there. And you have to be happy with the work you put in. Like, if you put your work into something, you gotta accept that this is what you did. and you have to accept the results of it, because then you're not accepting the reality of what you did. And the only way you get the things that you want is if you work on it, if you push yourself to get the right things done. Blaming it on others isn't going to help you.
Yeah, I would say that's not always the case, but yeah, it is certainly part of it, because I would say it's like half between what you can do and what other people can do. Or maybe not have, maybe a little bit leaning towards maybe a certain side, but like say I didn't do too well in a class. It's me. I have deficiencies and I could have done better and everything like that. But then what part of it is what could have the teacher done better, or what could I have maybe I could have taken a better teacher or something. And that's also something that maybe is not always the case, but I do think about that.
See, I do consider those times as well, but my thing with that is, if you're constantly worrying about what is preventing you from succeeding, you're not thinking about what more can I do to succeed in that situation. Because, like, oh sure, you could have taken a class with a different teacher that had a different structure set for the class, but if you're starting to struggle in the class, let's say it's week 2, you're gotta think, okay, what about the class is causing my grades to suffer? What am I doing wrong? Because there is a way to get an A. There are other people in that class who probably have that A. There's something they're doing that you're not. Something that you're not seeing. Maybe I should talk to the professor. I should figure out. Like, there are things that you can do to minimize all the other things around you. And if you constantly focus that there's something out to get you, something that's not in your control, you're not going to be aiming to push yourself. You're going to start blaming everything else around you, and then whenever you get a result, it's not going to feel like your own accomplishment. You're always going to have a throwaway thing, like this is because the teacher was out to get me. This is because the teacher was a bad teacher. No, there's something more you could have done. That grade could have been better, but we didn't do what needed to be done. And I've always seen it that way.
I wouldn't disagree with that, but there is something inside of me that says, well, if the teacher, I've gotten to the point where I would specifically pick some classes specifically because of the teacher, because there are some cases where, it's just so much easier to learn based on who the teacher is.
But the thing with that, you're making the choice to put yourself in a scenario where it's easier to succeed. You're making that individual choice. That could be the same thing for the class. Like, let's say it's really hard, and you can't do well in that. Well, drop it and take it another way. That way, when you have your final grade report, when you have that GPA at the very end, you took the proper choices so that you got the best scenario in every case. I'm not saying that different circumstances are harder than others. Some circumstances might be as unfair, but there's always something you can do about it. I've always been of that kind of mindset. Man, it goes back to something which I've always felt rang true for me, and eventually rings true for everyone. Where sometimes you only have you. No one to stand there behind you. So what do you do then? Are you going to fall? Are you going to collapse? Or are you going to stand on your own? Stand firm and stand tall. And not everyone can stand tall in that case, because it's really hard. Doing things by yourself is incredibly difficult. And I've always felt that loneliness is the worst of all the pains. Because in that one, you're meaningless. You don't sound like people get a negative reaction for you, they don't get a positive reaction for you. You're just not there. Well, no one's there. No one sees what you do. So, that's just my feeling in regards to individualism and its importance. You gotta have that strength going for you. Because you never know when you're gonna have to do it alone. And also in that case, you can't blame anyone else. And it's a scary reality because there are some times when you do have to do that. Not to say that it's not important to recognize when you do have people there, because it's incredibly amazing when you have people there willing to stand by you, who care for you, who will be there for you during the thick and thin. But I always thought you have to have the strength to do it when you're alone and when you have to be the one for everyone else.
Yeah. I think there's a certain arrogance that I think is useful in that case. Just like, arrogance has like a negative connotation to it, but I think it is like the idea that, okay, yeah, screw you, I'll just do it myself type of thing. I think is very, I don't know if I exactly practice it, but I do find myself thinking about it. That, hey, if I want to do something, like, what's the difference between me and some other guy who did it? Oh, there is no difference between me and the other guy. He's just the one who did it. So then that, like, it brings it back to like the movies and the kind of stuff, the creative things I went to. Is like, okay, like if this guy was able to do it, why can't I do it? And there's a certain arrogance to that I think is useful. It's like a good mindset if you want to do that kind of thing.
I wouldn't call it arrogance. Arrogance, whenever I think about it, goes back to the ego thing we were talking about earlier, where there's something you think that you're like thinking that you're better than everyone else. Whereas I have always seen the individual aspect of it as you have to have confidence in your ability and what you can and can't do, but also being recognized that you can push yourself to do the things you can't do. You're not there yet, but it's a possibility, and only you can make it a possibility. No one else will make it reality.
I think there's two ways to interpret like arrogance. There's like the bad way, which is like, okay, I'm better than everyone else, so I'll just do this thing because I'm better than everyone else. And the second way is, well, everyone else kind of sucks and I suck too. So if everyone else sucks, then I should be able to do it because I suck too.
I guess when I interpret your thing about like, oh, screw them, I can do it by myself, I never see the individual side of that. I'm not suggesting anyone to do that. What I'm saying is, let's say your team's falling apart. Okay, what can I do to make the team better? Because we need to work as a team. Because doing things alone, like screwing off and doing by yourself, that doesn't look good, especially because we have to work with people all the time. What I always see is better is be the person that can help get things done. You talk to people, and in your team, you figure out what they can do skill set wise, what they have the time for, and you get people started. You can be the person who's on top of everyone to get that group project done and to get that group project to look better than all the other group projects. It's like, it's not that you have to go off and strike on your own. I'm saying there are times where you have no one like you. It's everything's on you, and you actually don't have anyone to rely on. You have to have the strength to succeed in those situations. But in the times when you do have to rely on people, it's good to be a person who can get things started. If things aren't going well, things are at a slog, you start a chain of events, which gets the engine roaring. Because being a team player is incredibly important. And being the person who gets the team play started is also incredibly important.
What would you say to if you do try to do that and then the other players just don't perform, just like don't do it? Like you tell, hey, you find someone's like, hey, like what you say, you find someone's strengths, you find what they're good at, and then you say, hey, can you do this thing? And then they just don't do it. What would be the?
I would say, well, one, it depends on the time frame and what we're doing. Like, for example, let's say I'm running a company and I'm new. I'm running this team. Like, I'm put in charge of this new group of people, and we're supposed to get project A done, and we have to do it within. Let's say we have 6 months to do it, and I told him to do something, and let's say a few weeks pass and he's not getting on top of it. One, I would have to you have to be constant contact with them, figuring out why they're not doing it, and if it could be because there's different reasons why someone cannot be doing it. For example, one person could be they actually have no idea how to do it, and in that way, you gotta coach them, you gotta work with them, help them do it a little bit, get them started, get that ball rolling. Another could be is they have attitude problems, they don't want to work on it, and you talk with them, you figure out if you can solve why they're having a bunch of attitude with this whole project and that kind of thing. And if you can't solve it, I think the last case resort is get rid of them and get someone else. Because when you have a team, it really fractures the team structure if you're kind of getting rid of people here and there. What you want ideally is you want everyone else, however the hell they start, you want first to unite them behind a common goal, and kind of you got to bring the spirit in. It's like we're getting this done together, and there's an importance behind it. And as people work towards that goal, people are growing and getting better, producing better results as we get to there. So it really depends on the scenario. And if you're not, if there's a group project, let's say like in class, and you have like a week, okay, in that scenario, maybe it's fine just to do it yourself and then tell the teacher about it afterwards, because it's not fair that he or she gets the same credit if they didn't do any of the work. But if you're doing something, let's say you're in a sports team, you're a part of a company, you're a part of a band or whatever, you want to work those problems out, because the ideal is you want to bring someone into that community spirit. The best thing you can do as an individual and as a part of a group is you bring everyone together around these shared values, and you all have that same fire for those values. You want to get that goal done because part of it is you all care about each other and you all care about succeeding together. So
yeah, what's going in my mind right now is like, oh sorry,
no, go on.
Okay, yeah, what's going on in my head right now is like, I'm thinking back to all the times where we had a group project, and how it usually is that most people don't really want to do it, and so it's left to a few people. Like I'm thinking about all my school projects, like my current projects, team projects. Am I doing? Like, what should I be doing, or what should I have done? And that's what I'm thinking about right now. Like, was it the right choice to kind of me and someone else just do everything, and then just like, okay, just get on with it, because like it's just like an English project or something? Or should I have done something differently, where I should have kind of got everyone involved or something like that?
I would be of the thought where 9 times out of 10 it's a bad idea to just do it all by yourself. You create a bad feeling within your group by doing that, and especially if afterwards the teacher knows that they didn't do anything. It creates bad blood between you people. Most group projects where I always try to get everyone involved. As you can see, even not even group projects, when we all get together with friends, I always try to yell at the quiet people, get them to talk and join the conversation. When we had the recent one, and I was talking to the new people, trying to bring them in. And one thought that I had, which could make those things better in the future, is everyone who's new, whenever we have a group gathering stuff, like a large amount of people, all the new people have to go in the middle of the group. They have to be in the middle of all the conversation. They can't be on the sides.
Mm-hmm.
And that way, they become better integrated, get that community feeling kind of in there faster. That'd be good.
Yeah, I think that's probably something I should change about myself, huh? Like because when it comes to group projects or something, I really do enjoy doing the project. Like I do it by myself because I legitimately enjoy doing it. And I would like, if I were by myself in the group and I did the entire project by myself, I would still enjoy it, and I would prefer if I did it myself because I do enjoy doing that. So I wonder if it's something I need to change, how I handle these kinds of projects that would make it better. Because like I can think of like more than like 4 or 5 times where it was a subject we're making a movie or writing a script or something for like a high school English project, and I was like, dang, this is really fun. So I just do it all by myself, and no one really cares, and just like everyone gets a good grade, and it's like, did I do something wrong there by doing it all by myself? Did we create some kind of tension or anything? That's what I'm thinking about.
Well, honestly, for a lot of people, they won't care as long as they get the good grade. That's why in the example I said, if you tell the teacher that these people didn't do anything, and why they didn't do anything, if they didn't do anything because they didn't want to and weren't cooperative, that's when the bad blood's created because you call them out on them not being team players. Whereas if you just do all the work because you could and everyone else just was there for the ride, to just be like, oh, okay, they won't really do anything greater or worse. But I always feel the best part of it is when you all create something good together, everyone had a part in it, and they felt that they had a part and they're proud of the part. So it's like whatever conglomeration that we made by our joint efforts resulted in something that worked, brought us closer together as people, and something we all grew and are proud of. Like, that's always what I felt. That's what I do whenever I'm in charge of a whole group of people. That's like what I felt I did in Science Olympiad. Unite people behind the goal of we're a team that has a chance of beating the 20-year winning streak state champion. And we're good. We are solid when it comes to our studies, and we have pretty good builds. But the only way we're going to be able to do it is if we give our all for it. All as every single one of the 30 members working together, pushing each other to reach that new level, because we can't do it just half-assing it. And there's something special that you can see by being a part of that journey, something deeper that you can feel, something, because it's a goal in comparison to the rest of our studies and everything else that everyone's done, that it's something great that no one has done in a long time, and you can, being around these people, you can feel that we have a solid chance at doing it. And the only way that we can do it is if we bring everything we have to the table and to fight for that. And I feel like for the most part, the members in my team were started to share that. I think the best example of it, there's this kid on the team. He was very stubborn. He did things for himself a lot of the time, like in his own studies and going to school. He didn't really, whenever I talked with him about the effort, he was always kind of off-puttish about it, didn't really believe it. And as the year went on and he was integrated a little bit more into the team and he was around that spirit, we won first place at regionals by a landslide. We beat the record of last year, which was my goal, and the year before. And we're all enjoying this kind of like celebration of what we can accomplish together. And he comes up to me all by himself. And he's like, very quietly, he's like, I think we can do it, Steven. And I was like, what? Do what? He's like, I think we can do states. I think I believe in it now. And in my head, I was laughing. I was like, because I finally got him. But, it was great to see someone like that finally change and see that kind of greater thing that people can accomplish together by their own individual efforts. It's like, I don't see individualism as doing things by yourself. I see it as pushing yourself to do the right things, and when you have a bunch of those people together, you can do something even more amazing. It was funny, at my graduation in high school, he came up to me and he was like, Steven, I'll make you proud. In regards to Science Olympiad. And I was proud. He's a good kid.
Yeah.
And that kind of spirit, which I always aim to bring to wherever I go. It's great whenever people share that. What else?
Do you think that it's up to the other team members to kind of bring that on their own, or do you think that it's like your responsibility as a leader to, or not necessarily even a leader, but like a fellow group member to like bring that out in other people? Because like I'm just thinking, would someone necessarily listen to you if you're like the same level as them almost? Like if you weren't the leader of the science Olympiad, um,
The captain?
would people
Yeah.
have, or yeah, the captain or whatever, would people have had the same respect uh, for you trying to, you know, hype everyone up, especially if the captain were someone different?
I would say it's harder, but it's definitely possible because I've done it before. Not in that scenario. I did it. I I wasn't entirely successful, but in baseball, in my sophomore year, we had a captain. I was kind of he was not great, and he was very demotivating. And I was honestly, I wasn't even trying to be a leader because I was trying to give him respect of like, no, this is your team, this is your message, but I'm gonna keep doing me. And me being me, working hard and saying the things I do, there's a good amount of the team that kind of was like, you should be captain. We kind of like listening to you and all that. And they were the ones that were the freshies that were influenced by me. They became great players. They worked hella hard. But the rest of the team, who were used to behaving the way the captain did, kind of didn't really grow too much in the end because of their kind of work ethic. And now that there's been some time since then, I should have fought harder. I recognize now that if you're part of that team, everyone in the team has a responsibility to make it that kind of way. But I also recognize that it's not everyone is capable of it. Not everyone thinks about it. So if you do recognize it, you should be bringing that to your team every time, no matter if you're the leader. And for example, I did that when I worked at the airport. Um, People liked working with me, it made the spirit a little bit better, and people were pushing me to become a supervisor because a position had opened up. And I was just there for like a month.
Yeah, okay, actually, yeah, I wasn't sure if I'd bring it up, but I'll just bring it up because, like, who cares? Right, so, yeah, as you mentioned, like, at the very beginning, I'm on the Judicial Council for AHCC, right? And we're in a current situation where the current leader doesn't really do anything. And that's for many reasons, like personal reasons. And I'm just kind of in a dilemma where, okay, I want to do it. Like I would be fine being the next chair. Um, well, yeah, I want to be chair. That's the yeah. But I do enjoy doing the work. Um, and I wonder if it's the right thing for me to do by just kind of doing it. Uh, but at the same time, it's like I'm kind of ignoring his current position as the chair. And I'm just trying to. It's like the current dilemma of whether I should just do the work because I enjoy it and I want to do it, and it'll be better for everyone if I did it, or if I should try to get other people to do it, or try to get him to do it because like he's according to our rules and our laws, he's the one who's supposed to be doing it, but he's just not. So I don't. Yeah, this like it's just a dilemma that
I
I'm
would say
working
you do
on
all
like at the
three.
moment.
Like you start taking some more responsibility. You talk with others about why you're doing it and see if you can get people to help you. And as a group, bring it up to him, being like, "Yo, you haven't done anything." I think that's gonna be the best case. But definitely now I see, whenever if you do recognize that things could be better, staying silent isn't gonna help anyone.
Yeah, I think that brings me up to that question I asked about you earlier. Like, if I'm working, like, is it like if you tell someone to do something,
Mm-hmm.
or you like kind of like not really pressure them to do something, but you kind of encourage them to do something, but then they just don't do it, or they say they're going to do it, but then they just don't do it, but they have to do it. Like at that point, it's like according to our rules, you're legally like you have to do it, you need to do it, but you're not doing it. So then maybe I'll break the rules myself by just doing it for you. And is it like, am I supposed to just keep pressuring them to do it until they eventually do it, and then they resent me for it, or do I do it myself and then they resent me for me doing it myself, or we just don't do it at all and then everyone else? So it's
Well,
like it's a
in
lose
that
lose
case, you
lose
have to get.
situation.
I wouldn't call it that. I would say they're not equal losses.
They're not equal losses, but they are losses. They're all negative. There's a net loss, I think, in some way in each situation.
I think in that case, if you can get things done because they have to be done, that becomes a net positive. Because then, in the end, if you really have someone who is unwilling to work, you get rid of them. It's the worst case scenario, and it's not your first solution. You don't go as a first option ever. But if the person has proven that they're not doing things, if they're irresponsible, they're not caring to be accountable, and with repeated requests to do the same thing and talking about why they're not doing it, then you get rid of them. And if they're in a position where you can't get rid of them at the moment, well, you get the work done and get rid of them at the first opportunity.
It's like House of Cards stuff.
Yeah, well, those people, it's a net negative to keep them because they bring everyone else down. Because if you have those kinds of people on your team, it completely degrades the community spirit because everyone else can be like, well, we're working really hard, and this person is on the team. He's getting benefits for being on the team. He's doing nothing. And he doesn't, like, one thing I hated in Science Olympia is how many members didn't show up. I was like, oh my god, we need you. And I would get on people for it. But, people just not participating in a group effort always degrades from the success of the group. And you have to figure out why they're doing that, see if you can get them to stop. But if they absolutely won't, get rid of them. And I got rid of 2 members because of that. So, yeah, that's my answer to that.
Yeah.
Well, also,
I guess that does help me with what I'm dealing with.
I'm glad. And to everyone out there, I think we hit an hour 15. So that's all we can do for this podcast. But I had a really fun time with this one. This one feels different from the other 5 I've had. Yeah, it's special, Nathan.
Wow.
So everyone out there, if you like this kind of content, give a like and subscribe, and maybe a share too. And we'll see you in next week's.